Good afternoon, everyone. Continuing our discussion on developing plant strains by genetic engineering. We were in the middle of the discussion on developing insect resistant plants. One of the subspecies of the Bacillus thuringiensis, that is the Kurstaki insecticidal protein gene, this is not particularly well expressed in plants. If it is not well expressed, then this is problematic, because high level of expression of these insect control proteins appear to be very much required in order to produce commercially viable insect resistant plants. Otherwise, this is problematic. So, in an effort to rise the level of the expressed protein, the researchers have come up with two strategies. They have truncated the gene so that only the N terminal portion of the insecticidal toxin was produced, and they have inserted a strong plant promoter to direct gene expression. So these two strategies have led to a slight increase in the level of insecticidal toxin proteins produced. The Bacillus thuringiensis insecticidal protein, if it is not produced in sufficient levels, then it cannot prevent damage by insect predation, and at the same time it will have a negative impact on commercially producing viable insect resistant plants. So two strategies have been developed by the researchers in order to overcome this problem. They have truncated the gene so that only the N terminal portion of the insecticidal toxin is produced, and they have inserted a strong plant promoter so that it directs the gene expression. The outcome is these two strategies have led to a slight increase in the level of insecticidal toxin that is being produced. To increase the level of expression, it was very much sought that the minimum sequence that encoded toxin activity, so the amino acid sequences of the protoxins from various strains of Bacillus thuringiensis were compared just to know or to determine whether there is a common insecticidal domain among these different strains of Bacillus thuringiensis. And the very analysis showed that the N-terminal portion of the protoxin molecule is highly conserved. It is up to 98% among different strains of the Bacillus thuringiensis. But to their surprise, the C-terminal region is more variable. The conservation is approximately 45% only, right? And several research studies or the data show that all of the insecticidal toxin activity is present or it resides within the first 646 amino acids from the N terminus. So when the segment of the protoxin gene that encodes the highly conserved amino acid sequence was cloned, and then when it was expressed in bacteria, the shortened protein was as active as the native form in protecting plants against the insects, that is Lepidopteran insects, in laboratory trials. So this was a beautiful approach in order to increase the level of expression. That is truncation. The gene by itself is truncated so that only the minimum sequence that is required to encode the toxin activity is expressed. Right. The transgenic tomato plants, they were produced to test for the first time whether the shortened protoxin gene would be able to protect the plants from damage caused by various pests. Right. Now this shortened version of the protoxin gene was put under the transcriptional control of a strong constitutive promoter, that is 35S promoter from cauliflower mosaic virus, and the nopalin synthase transcription termination polyadenylation site, and then cloned into the tDNA region of a co-integrate type Ti plasmid vector. Now the vector contained the spectinomycin resistance gene. So this allowed it to be selected in either E. coli or even in Agrobacterium tumefaciens. Reason that an E. coli origin of DNA replication and a neomycin phosphotransferase gene that was under the control of the nopalin synthase promoter and transcription termination polyadenylation sites, and this enabled selection of the transformed plant cells in the presence of kanamycin. In addition, the co-integrate cloning vector, it had the right border of the tDNA from a nopalin Ti plasmid and a segment of the octopine Ti plasmid that provides a region of homology for co-integrate formation by homologous recombination with a disarmed Ti plasmid. So this plasmid was constructed and manipulated in E. coli before it was transferred by conjugation to a strain of Agrobacterium tumefaciens that contained a disarmed Ti plasmid. Then after recombination in Agrobacterium tumefaciens, the short form of the protoxin gene was transferred to the chromosomal DNA of tomato plants. In both greenhouse trial as well as in field trials, the transgenic tomato plants that express the short form of the protoxin acquired some degree of protection against the damage caused by the tobacco hornworm, that is Manduca secta, the tomato fruitworm, that is Heliothis zea, and the tomato pinworm, that is Scepheria lycopersicella. So these are some of the insects against which the short form of the protoxin acquired a measurable degree of protection. Right? So this figure indicates the co-integrate cloning vector which carries a Bacillus thuringiensis insecticidal toxin gene. Now moving on to developing virus resistant plants. Plant viruses often cause considerable crop damage, and as a result of that, it significantly reduces the yields. So in the absence of effective chemical treatments, the plant breeders have always attempted to transfer naturally occurring virus resistance genes from one cultivar to another. But the problem is these resistant cultivars, they often revert back to the virus sensitivity. And the resistance to one virus does not necessarily confer resistance against other similar viruses. This is the limitation. When the plant breeders attempt to transfer naturally occurring virus resistant genes from one plant strain to another or from one cultivar to another. The resistant cultivars revert to the virus sensitivity, and the resistance to one virus is not necessary or does not necessarily confer resistance against similar viruses. So, natural virus resistance can be achieved in different ways. That is, viral transmission can be blocked. That is, the establishment of the virus can be blocked, or viral symptoms can be bypassed or resisted. Right? So, when transgenic plants, they express the gene for the coat protein of a virus, which often is the most abundant protein of a virus particle, that normally infects the plant, or the ability of the virus to subsequently infect the plant and spread systematically, it is often greatly diminished. Though the precise mechanism by which the presence of coat protein genes inhibits viral proliferation is not known, it is clear that the antiviral effect occurs early in the viral replication cycle and as a result prevents any significant amount of viral synthesis. This feature is advantageous for the reason that it decreases the probability of selecting for spontaneous viral mutants that can overcome this resistance and also replicate in the presence of virus coat protein. Right. So, in both prokaryotes as well as in eukaryotes, an RNA molecule that is complementary to a normal gene transcript, that is the mRNA, which is called the antisense RNA. That is, this antisense RNA is complementary to normal gene transcript. Now, the mRNA being translatable, it is considered to be a sense RNA. The presence of antisense RNA can decrease the synthesis of the gene product by forming a duplex molecule, that is RNA-RNA duplex with the normal sense mRNA. Now, this antisense RNA and mRNA duplex is also rapidly degraded, a response that diminishes the amount of that particular mRNA in the cell. So, theoretically, it should be possible to prevent plant viruses from replicating and subsequently damaging the plant tissues by creating a transgenic plant that synthesizes antisense RNA that is complementary to the virus coat protein mRNA. So, this is the theoretical approach. Now, in several studies, the effectiveness of the virus coat protein gene and the antisense RNA approaches, they were compared by cloning the cDNA for the coat protein of cucumber mosaic virus into tobacco plants in two orientations, that is sense and antisense. That is one orientation per plant. And then the testing transgenic plants for sensitivity to viral infection was studied. So, as shown in the figure, the genome of cauliflower mosaic virus consists of 3 separate single-stranded pieces of RNA, each coding for a specific viral protein. So, in vivo, this RNA3, this is processed to remove a portion of its sequence, thereby generating RNA4. Now, this encodes the virus coat protein. So to create transgenic plants that either produce normal mRNA and express the virus coat protein or produce its antisense RNA. So the following steps were carried out. Number 1, isolation of RNA4. Number 2, in vitro enzymatic conversion of RNA4 into double-stranded cDNA. Number 3, addition of linkers onto the cDNA. Number 4, insertion of the full-length cDNA sequences into cloning vectors in both orientations, that is with each oriented sequence under the control of the 35S promoter sequence from the cauliflower mosaic virus. And number 5, formation of separate transgenic plants carrying the cDNA sequence in one of the two possible orientations. So, to create transgenic plant that either produce normal mRNA and express the virus coat protein or produced its antisense RNA, the following steps were carried out. Isolation of RNA4, in vitro enzymatic conversion of RNA4 into double-stranded cDNA, addition of linkers onto the cDNA, insertion of the full-length cDNA sequence into cloning vector in both orientations, and formation of separate transgenic plants carrying the cDNA sequence in one of the two possible orientations. Now the TI plasmid binary vector system was used to transfer both protein producing sense and antisense RNA producing cDNA sequences to two separate tobacco cells. So the transgenic tobacco plants that express the cauliflower mosaic virus coat protein, they were protected from viral particle accumulation and did not show symptoms of viral infection, regardless of whether the inoculum of the challenge virus was high or low, whatever it is. However, the transgenic tobacco plants expressing cauliflower mosaic virus coat protein antisense RNA, they were protected only when the concentration of the challenging virus in the inoculum was low. So that is the difference between the two approaches. Right. So what it is understood from here is the TI plasmid binary vector system that was used to transfer both protein producing sense and antisense RNA producing cDNA sequencers to separate the tobacco cells from which the transgenic plants were regenerated. The transgenic tobacco plants that expressed the coat protein, they were protected from viral particle regardless of whether the protein or the inoculum was high or low. But the transgenic tobacco plants expressing the cauliflower mosaic virus coat protein antisense RNA, they were protected only when the concentration of the challenging virus or the inoculum was low. Right. So several studies have shown that, or they have constructed transgenic plants that synthesize antisense RNA copies of virus coat protein genes, and they have tested whether these plants could withstand a viral challenge. And in all the cases, it was observed that the plants were protected against the invading virus only when low concentrations of the virus were used. At higher concentration of the virus, the plants were damaged by the virus. Right? Though it is premature, that means the antisense RNA approach may be premature, but significant improvements are required before it will gain acceptance. And nowadays we find several studies that or reports that have suggested that the transgenic plants that express viral genes other than the virus coat protein gene may also be protected against damage from infective viruses. Right. So next we have the herbicide resistant plants. We know that approximately 10% of the global crop production is lost through weed infestation every year. So weed infestation is a big problem across the globe, and 10% of the crop production is lost through weed infestation every year. Despite of billions of dollars being invested on 100 different chemical herbicides, the use of herbicides has limitations. Number one is the cost, addition of the cost. But the most important limitation is, say for example, many of these herbicides do not discriminate weeds from crop plants, and many must be applied early before the weeds take hold, and some persist in the environment for days together. So thus the creation of herbicide resistant crop plants is one way to overcome some of these drawbacks. And a number of different biological manipulations that would cause a crop plant to be herbicide resistant can be envisioned. Number one, inhibit the uptake of the herbicide. Number two, overproduce the herbicide resistant or the sensitive target protein so that enough of its remains available for cellular functions despite the presence of the herbicide. Number three, reduce the ability of the herbicide sensitive target protein to bind to a herbicide. And number four, endow plants with the capability to metabolically inactivate the herbicide. Of these possibilities, the last three, that is except inhibit the uptake of the herbicide, they have been implemented to produce herbicide resistant transgenic plants. Now resistant plants have been developed for the herbicide glyphosate, which is environmentally friendly because it is readily degraded to non-toxic compounds in the soil. Now this acts as an inhibitor of EPSPS, that is 5-enol pyruvyl shikimate 3-phosphate synthase. So this is an enzyme in the shikimate pathway. This enzyme plays an important role in the synthesis of aromatic amino acids in both bacteria and plants. So an EPSPS encoding gene from a glyphosate resistant strain of E. coli was isolated. It was put under the control of plant promoter and transcription termination polyadenylation sequences and then cloned into plant cells. So transgenic plants of tobacco, tomato, potato and even the cotton that produce a sufficient amount of the resistant E. coli EPSPS to replace the inhibited plant enzyme are resistant to the effects of glyphosate. So thus in these cases the crop plant would not be affected by the glyphosate treatment, whereas the weeds would be definitely affected. As an example of resistance due to herbicide inactivation have been developed for bromoxynil, that is 3,5-dibromo 4-hydroxybenzonitrile. So this is an herbicide that acts by inhibiting photosynthesis, and in this case the resistant plants, they were created by the inoculation of a bacterial gene that encodes the enzyme nitrilase. So this can inactivate bromoxynil before the herbicide can act on that. So the gene for the enzyme nitrilase was isolated from the soil bacterium Klebsiella, and then it was placed under the control of the light regulated promoter from the small subunit of the enzyme ribulose biphosphate carboxylase before it was transferred to tobacco plants. Then the transgenic plants expressed the nitrilase activity and they were resistant to the toxic effect of the herbicide. So this is about different approaches to obtain the virus resistant transgenic plants, and in the next session we will look into developing stress and senescence tolerant plants and the genetic manipulation of flower pigmentations and how to modify the properties of plant products, and also the most important concept, that is plants as bioreactors. So with this I'll stop my discussion for today. We will continue our discussion in the next session. Thank you very much.